And joining us once again is Gregg Ibendahl, a K-State Ag economist, and this time we're going to talk about a study that he and some of his colleagues have done looking at spending on the farm, especially when it comes to machinery, not necessarily inputs. Did you find some interesting things?
Yeah, I think we did. So there's a whole bunch of research out there on the consumer world about looking at, spending and such by the different generational issues. Well, we have data in our KFMA database now that we can actually go about and look at spending by farmers as a generational issue. So we're looking at some of those issues.
Were there things that surprised you?
Yeah, I guess my hypothesis going into this study was that, baby boom generations, we see a lot of consumer research says they're the biggest spenders. So I decided to take our data from our KFMA thing and actually look at that on the farmer side with the idea that, if they're going to spend extra, it's going to be probably for machinery because that's a place you can park money and, it's always nice to have a new tractor and such. So if they're going to overspend, it's probably going to be on the machinery side. And we did find some differences, although not as much as you might expect.
So would it depend on what size of operation, how many years, different cropping rotations? I mean, give us some of those things you looked at.
Well, it's kind of a two competing hypotheses I was looking at. So one was saying, okay, the baby boom generation, because they do spend more money, in the consumer side, they're going to spend more money for machinery. That was the one hypothesis. I guess the competing version of that would be, well, it's going to be more of a life cycle thing. So we'll see the oldest farmers who have the most available cash and least amount of debt, they'll be spending the most, whereas millennials who are just getting started and have the highest level of debt, they'll spend the least. And those were the two things we were looking at.
Well, as we look at it, it seems like some of these new ones getting in, if they have gone in the last 2 or 3 years since the peak maybe of farm income, it probably looks a little bit different. But I would guess that probably farming operation, the way, are they no-till, are they conventional, and how important is all that pretty iron, in the machinery line?
Well, we kind of rolled all those together, so we're basically looking at things on a per acre basis across all farms across Kansas, so we didn't look so much on those issues. Okay. The one thing we did find unique, though, that was the baby boomers don't tend to spend more than what you might think. It's more of a life cycle hypothesis we're seeing come through. So the older farmers who probably do have more available cash, less debt to asset ratio, they actually are spending the most for machinery, whereas millennials who are just getting started, they're spending the least. So really, you hear talk about millennials, they don't really know what they're doing, but it turns out that I think they really do. They're spending appropriately for the amount of income they have come in.
Did you look at geographic? Was there one geographical area maybe of Kansas that was more, or was it pretty much the same all over?
Yeah, we did divide the data in the East, Central, and West, and we didn't really see any regional differences at all.
So it all just depends on, I guess, age and capital availability of where that ended up.
Yeah, I mean, age is a factor, but I think that's also driven by the fact that the older you are, the least debt you have, and the more cash. I think that's probably really driving it.
And again, that is now posted as well on the K-State website?
Yes, it will be on agmanager.info.
All right, very good. Well, Gregg, we appreciate the update. Fascinating stuff to look at. Thanks for your work.
Thanks for having me.
Gregg Ibendahl, K-State Ag economist, is joining us, and we've been talking about farmers and the way they spend. You can find that information at agmanager.info. Stay with us, more coming up.